Welcome to the Planning Applications Committee. Apologies for the late start. We have had some technical difficulties. We have no apologies for absence. Do we have any declarations of pecuniary interest, please? No. Councillor Najib. Latif. Can you unmute Councillor Latif, please?
Item 6, I was involved with meetings with the residents and the Allingwood.
So you're not intending to vote in that?
I would not be voting in that. Item.
Okay, thank you for that. Minutes of the previous meeting, can we agree those as a correct record, please? Thank you. For members of the public, we have 2 items on the agenda tonight. The way that it works on planning is that officers will introduce the report. If we have objectors, they will have their opportunity to speak for 3 minutes, and then the agent will have the similar amount of time to respond. We have 2 ward councillors tonight who wish to speak to item 5. And when everybody has presented their cases, we will then move to members only. Members then will ask questions and then make comments, and then finally we will make a decision about each application. So our first application tonight is Madison Heights, which is agenda item 5. Can I pass to Tim to deal with that, please?
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I'm just going to share my screen for the presentation. Bear with me. Can you see that, Chair, just to confirm?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Members, so the site's located at the junction of Milner Road and Morden Road in South Wimbledon. The site comprises a newly built residential block of flats with commercial ground floor use. 15 flats exist in the current building with a mix of 5 1-bed and 10 2-bed units. Access to the flats is from Milner Road, and the building is clad in a mixture of light and dark grey aluminium cladding panels. This is existing floor plans. The residential flats provided 5 floors currently, with 3 flats per floor. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth floor. Such an indication of the building layout currently. Proposed floor plan. As the proposal itself is to extend the building upwards by 2 floors to create more residential units, 5 flats in total in addition. So proposed 6th floor would accommodate 2 1-bed units and a studio flat. And the 7th floor would accommodate 2 2-bedroom flats. Each flat would have private outdoor balconies. Proposed elevations. The application has been subject to negotiation on design and scale with officers. The proposal would be set back from the outside walls of the building and would be of a contemporary design to be in keeping with the remainder of the building. Cladding panels, again, would be used. This time it would be a dark grey aluminium clad panelling, which is the grey you see here, and brown zinc, what I call to the edging, zinc panels to the edge to give the extension a bit of character to it. In terms of building heights, it would have its highest building height of 27.1 meters. This would be similar to the adjacent building on the south side of Milner Road, known as Spur House, which is here, which is 27 meters high. So that's just to give you an indication of building height. The other elevations here, as I said, various. It's set back from the top current roof level. Some balconies are covered, some are exposed. This gives an indication of the elevations here and materials. Proposed section drawing. So the 6th floor, as you can see, the sort of parapet behind the top of the existing building So that floor is actually set lower behind, and then you can see another floor above. You'll see outlined in black, there is a previous permission in place in 2018 for a single story extension upwards. Some visual aids provided by the applicants with the application. So this is the current amended plans before you this evening, what it's based on. So you'll note it's really the views from Morden Road here, looking at the corner. So you'll see proposal tries to provide a variety of setback positions and to add to the character of the rooftop extension. You've got the zinc cladding, which would add a bit of contrast to the grey proposed as well. Views from South Wimbledon Crossroads, and again from the crossroads there, and then along from Kingston Road, northwest of the site, looking back. As I said earlier, in 2018, there was a permission for one extra story to provide 3 flats. This hasn't been implemented, but remains extant. These are the application drawings, just for your interest, you need to refer to them, which were the 2018 planning permission. Chair, unfortunately, this plan hasn't come out very well, but what this is, members will be aware of the high path regeneration outline planning permission east of the site, which is here. The site is here on the left. This really just a building height parameters to scale plan with the outline permission. Again, just to give you an indication of future potential building heights. And in the green here, it is outlined to be up to 34 meters, and 37 meters is the purple. But that's really just to help give you an indication of building heights potential in the surrounding area. Moving to site photographs, so on Morden Road, looking at the south elevation of the building. So as I said, the extension is set back from here, but up here. The building has got a variety of shades of grey panelling on there, but the proposal is for one colour of panelling for the grey, and then the zinc surround. From Milner Road itself, the original permission included three-bed townhouses, which are these, and then there's the flats behind. That's Spur House I referred to earlier with the spot heights. So that's to the south of the existing building. From further back down Morden Road, so you'll see Spur House in the foreground, and then the site beyond. Some other pictures just from the surroundings, some more from the crossroads. Looking at the building, it's a very prominent building in the local area. I'm sure you've all gone past it fairly recently. And then again, from Kingston Road and from the Merton Road to the north. I'll draw members' attention now to the modifications sheet. We've corrected some typos in the report and add an additional section on a condition of the existing building, which has been raised by many representations received. We've also added a replacement paragraph for the agenda on bin storage and an additional condition regarding soundproofing measures. Overall, whilst the proposal will result in the construction of flats above a building which has recently been completed, new residential development is encouraged in sustainable locations, and officers have concluded that the proposal can be supported on planning grounds. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Back to the screen. So we move to our first objector. Tim, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Speaking on behalf of the majority of Madison Heights residents and members of the wider community, we strongly object to the planning application in question for the following reasons. 1, bin refuse. The proposal is contingent upon the inclusion of 2 additional 1100 litre bins. Addition of these bins would leave less than 11 inches of space to move and is an impossible proposal. There are further serious concerns with the accuracy of the drawings which you have just seen from the planning officer and are detailed in the proposal. Namely, A, the drawings of the existing ground floor show doors which simply do not exist. For example, the doorway from the main lobby to the refuse area. The drawings also show 2 new 770 litre bins, but the proposal states 2 new 1100 litre bins. C. There are currently 2 360 litre bins on site, but the proposal states there are currently 10 10. We believe it to be a reasonable ask and implore the panel to review these facts, preferentially in person, and request proof of the ability to accommodate additional bins. 2. Lifts. The existing 15 flats in the building are serviced by 1 lift. This lift provides access to the building for elderly, disabled residents and visitors. Extending the lift shaft and stairwell in order to add 2 additional stories would cause major disruption to the everyday life of residents and visitors for a prolonged period. To date, there has been no inclusion of measures being taken to mitigate this risk. 3. Structural integrity and quality of workmanship. Residents are genuinely concerned for their safety if Celtic Investments are allowed to take on such a major project given their track record to date. To name a small number of the ongoing issues we have faced, A, the front door of the building has been completely broken for over 5 months. This ultimately has allowed criminals to enter the building and steal 5 bikes, a matter they have refused to take any responsibility for. And secondly, homeless members of the community have been found to be sleeping in our main entrance area. Even today as I speak, the door remains broken. B, most alarmingly, there is evidence of fundamental structural problems with regards to leaks. Multiple floors and communal areas
1
have
minute
faced
remaining.
leaks into the property from floors above since summer 2019. And today, flats 13, 10, 11, 14, 8, 5, and the existing cycle store have leaks. We believe it to be a reasonable ask to ask for all snagging to be completed as is legally required before any further work takes place. 4, the impact on existing residents. This development would have a major impact on the lives of residents, particularly during a time when we are locked down and working from home for the foreseeable future. In accordance with policies, we believe it to be a reasonable ask to include measures being taken to limit disruption to residents, particularly with regards to noise, dust, light, vibrations, and visual disturbances during the proposed works. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I believe we have a second objector statement being read.
Thank you, Chair. As an occupant of Madison Heights, I strongly oppose the planning application for a 2-storey extension for the following reasons. I do not believe Celtic Investments will be able to comply with their promise of 2 additional bins. There is a lack of space as measured by current occupants of Madison Heights, which would render this promise unachievable. To be specific, measurements taken show that if an additional 2 times 1100 litre bins were added as planned, there would be 29 centimetres between bins to walk. There are ongoing issues with the building as it stands which have been unresolved. These include the door to the main building, which is constantly breaking and often won't lock, leaving the occupants and their belongings in danger, as demonstrated when many of the occupants' bikes were stolen from the cycle storage room. Leaks from and into many of the flats, including my own, letterboxes being broken into due to their poor design and left unfixed. To build another 5 flats would put more pressure on the management company when they are unable to assist the 15 flats they already manage. The existing lift is likely to be out of action for a while as the lift is being extended. As a 5th floor resident, this would make my day-to-day life a lot more difficult and would make deliveries extremely difficult also. It would also mean that no people in wheelchairs were able to visit residents. Some occupants also have children, so they would need to lift prams and other objects up many flights of stairs. There are no measures in place to limit disturbances to the current occupants. This is especially crucial with COVID-19, as many of us, including myself, are having to work from home for the foreseeable future. According to Merton's sites and policies, development which would have a significant effect on existing occupiers due to noise will not be permitted unless the potential noise problems can be overcome by suitable mitigation measures. During this lockdown period, we have been confined within our flats. If there is to be scaffolding and construction dust, occupants will not be able to open windows or have proper sunlight coming into the flats. This could cause psychological damage to occupants. On hot summer days, temperatures inside the flat can reach around 30 degrees, so not being able to open the windows would cause it to be unfit for living. As noted by the planning officer, there is a lack of energy statement. The existing flat has a number of solar
1 minute
panels
remaining.
which provide electricity for communal areas, which will be decommissioned and reinstalled once the upper extension is completed. It is not noted how this period without solar will be mitigated. Letters received from TfL stated that there were fears that the building and the TfL tunnels below could not take the weight of any extra stories. This is not a matter that should be taken lightly, and no risks should be taken with any uncertainty, as it could result in disaster and death for residents and passers-by. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The agent can speak now. Please, you have 6 minutes.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Just to address some of the concerns from the previous two speakers. Obviously, just for the record, obviously, just wanted to make sure that you're all aware that the applicant is the current owner of the building, and they are working with the residents to overcome the deficiencies of the original building, which was developed a couple of years ago. With respect to the bins and some of the sort of questions that have been, or queries that have been raised regarding noise and nuisance and construction methods, all of these obviously can be cleared out with the planning officers. The bins, in terms of our input, what we allocated was 2 additional bins to support the extra flats at the top. However, we can change the strategy and make them all slightly bigger commercial bins, which will provide adequate refuge storage for the entire block of flats. Just moving on from there, this scheme has received objections as explained and in the detailed report. However, it should be noted that the planning committee, the large portion of the objection points are not worthy of planning condition and thus do not constitute planning concern. The report prepared by the planning department clearly sets out the positive move that we and the department have taken over the last few months developing the scheme to what you see in front of you now. The scheme was submitted last year and initially was not received favourably by the council due to the size and material palette. We have had several back and forths with the council, developing and improving the scheme to what is now in front of you and what we would class as quite an exciting development of this building. The planning report outlines the additional 5 flats are welcome as part of an increase in the Merton housing stock, and the well-proportioned dwellings will provide joy in living in this area. As the planning officer previously mentioned, that this site already benefits from a single-story extension, and thus our proposal at the moment is only 2.2 meters taller than that's already been approved, making an invaluable addition to the building and local area. The existing building, which was completed a few years back, appears stubby, and therefore the scheme provides height and proportion of scale to the built form, which is supported by the council's urban design officers. The overall aesthetic of the extension has been diligently considered between us and the planning team to provide suitable and correct material palette to enhance the building. Regrettably, the existing building does suffer from poor cladding, as mentioned by the objectors, but which was constructed by the previous developer. However, the current owner of the building is working with the residents to hopefully overcome these issues. The material palette has been carefully selected, as mentioned before, with the planning team, consciously to move away from the existing tile cladding system, which hasn't been executed very well by the previous developer. The color choice and the material palette have been selected to complement this building as an additional built form, and from an urban design point of view, provides height to the building as as mentioned previously, this area is up for regeneration, and there'll be hopefully in the pipeline many other buildings to support this height as we move forward in time. We believe that this is an appropriate design developed with the council, and trust that the committee see that the effort in the design and extension has been given the necessary time, and quality proposal is being presented today in front of you. We trust the committee members see it right to fully sanction this development. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim, do you want to respond?
Yes, please, Chair. Yeah. So, members, a number of issues have been raised with those representations. A lot of representations made refer to maintenance issues with the existing building. Whilst we've seen photographs of the internals showing issues with that, these are not planning issues to be considered in the assessment of the current planning application before you. These are building maintenance issues between the relevant stakeholders within that building, so between the leaseholders and the freeholder. In terms of bin storage, we've looked at this, and we've provided in the update sheet a further replacement paragraph on bin storage issues. We've seen the photographs, officers seen the photographs of the existing bin storage facility. The objectives are correct in that the current the floor plans shown on the plans showed 10 360 wheelie bins. But in actual fact, there are 4 1100 litre 4-wheeler Euro bins, as they're referred to, within the bin storage facility. You'll see within the replacement paragraph in the update sheet that we've looked to the council's waste and recycling storage requirements document, which is the guidance document for applicants and architects on the council's website about calculating the required bin storage for the number of units. So you'll see that we provide some analysis there, but we're confident that although 1100 litre Euro bins extra may not be suitable within that current facility, but additional 360 litre bins would be. In terms of the construction process, as with any development proposal, the construction phase will lead to some disruption, and clearly in this case, building above existing flats would cause noise and disturbance. However, the construction process is for a temporary period of time, for which a plan application could not be resisted on that issue alone. Hours of construction conditions to be imposed with controls that time when construction can commence and end. And this also is also in relation to the lift. If the lift is out of action, this is for a temporary period, and there cannot be a planning reason for refusing the application. Whilst officers, we have a lot of sympathy with the existing residents, as it's a building that's been completed within the last 2 years. In planning terms, we could not sustain an objection for those matters raised. So I hope, Chair, that's assisted in tonight's debate. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 councillors wishing to speak, and they have 3 minutes each, which will, we are intending to stop at 2 minutes to 8 to give people an opportunity to go outside and clap with their family and friends. And then we will resume at 8:05. So I'm going to call on Councillor Ben Butler to speak next. You've got 3 minutes, Ben.
Thank you for including me in the meeting, and it's good to see so many of you safe and well in these circumstances. I'm speaking here today to support the great organisation and community of residents currently living in Madison Heights. I'm hoping my contribution will echo the pertinent issues already raised in the objection submissions and the speeches tonight. While not personally against higher density of housing in the area, or indeed in this block, I think there are some serious concerns that need to be addressed before work begins. Firstly, the existing building and floors below are in widespread disrepair. There are multiple examples of cracks and leaks in the building work throughout the units and the communal areas, even reaching the bike store at the base of the building. Constructing the additional units on top may make these existing issues considerably worse, not to mention the doubts it raises about the ability of management to properly maintain the new units when existing units are being neglected. Secondly, there are very few details on how the disruption in the process of construction will be mitigated for residents and the wider area. Living in the same building as these works take place will surely be hugely stressful, with no word in the proposal of how to make the living within the building process bearable, practical, and safe. The one working lift is reported to be already in heavy use and relied upon by residents unable to use the stairs. It needs to be clear what support will be given if this is out of commission. The details are missing. Finally, we should make sure the current residents' amenities should not be badly affected in this process. And as we've heard tonight, the proposal and recommendations suggest that the supply of waste management options is sufficient, though pictures shown of the bin storage space show there is technically room for the bins, only if you didn't expect a human being to be able to fit into the space and actually use them. I don't want this development to cause future fly tips because residents living there can't fit in the space to actually clear up and recycle properly. If this is to change, as is suggested, we really do need to make sure that small
1 minute remaining.
and that they won't be constantly overflowing, which from reports given to me, the existing bins are already at or over capacity. The context of these current ongoing issues, along with the lack of detail in how the construction process will not adversely affect the residents, on top of an already lacking record of diligence from the management of the building, forced me to conclude that giving the go-ahead as proposals stand will be a great detriment to those already living there. I think these and other concerns should be addressed before work goes forward. Thank you to the many residents who have contacted us about this and for giving me the chance to speak tonight.
Thank you. We also have a written report from Councillor Benbow that's going to be read.
Thank you, Chair. Having reviewed the planning application for a 2-storey roof extension box on top of Madison Heights building in South Wimbledon, I honestly cannot see how this will be approved because there are too many holes that have been ignored by the developer, Celtic Investments Wimbledon Limited, and I fear the council planners have been misled. Why is there a need to place a box on top of Madison Heights building that already has existing problems of several leakages, wall cracks, main security door left broken, causing a safety hazard for almost a year, enabling thieves to break into the residents' post boxes, and 5 bikes were stolen from their bike storage? None of these were acknowledged, fixed, or reimbursed by their landlord developers, despite numerous pleas by the residents, but no answer, hence causing greater structural damage to the building. Most worryingly, several heavy tiles have been found falling off the building from a great height, which could potentially kill pedestrians on street level. During the lockdown, the residents have noticed their floors rumble when lorries drive past, particularly when waiting at the traffic lights outside Tesco. I must add, as the developers are freeholders, raking in service charges, they have not once provided cleaning service to their communal areas of the building and failed to provide yearly financial statements to show the maintenance costs. What is astonishing is that the developers never once consulted any of the residents in Madison Heights about their latest extension plans. Don't the residents have the right to know when they have spent an excess of £600,000 on their flats? They feel marginalised and powerless. No wonder my residents are all angry and disgusted by the developers' behaviour, ignoring their responsibility as a landlord for the maintenance at Madison Heights, but more interested in adding a box on top of the building for a quick profit. Pure greed and no intention to solve existing problems. Not surprisingly, there isn't a single resident in favour of the planning application. Having listened to the residents, it is obvious to me that the developers have not maintained their building works to expected standards, hence all the problems mentioned above. This demonstrates the mismanagement and severity of the lack of care. I find this is completely unacceptable for brand new luxury flats that were sold for more than £600,000. As a result, the residents as leaseholders are going through the right to manage process to take over the management of the building. Nothing is mentioned in the agenda about how the developers will reduce the safety risks on existing residents, the risks to their flats or noise disturbance. Why hasn't the developer submitted an energy statement? No pollution study to show the impact of pollution and air quality effect. Why no air quality or noise assessment? What safety measures have the developers or the council provided to ensure TfL is satisfied with the proposed planning application? I fear that if this planning application is given the go-ahead, there will be a knock-on effect on other developers copying the idea, building taller skyscrapers across Wimbledon. Madison Heights would be the tallest building in Abbey Ward. I do not doubt that the future developers would be arguing their planning applications by using Madison Heights as an example. A dangerous thought, and please consider this. There is no need for another high rise in South Wimbledon. The proposed extension looks like a box placed on top of the building.
Thank you. It is now 7 minutes to 8. We could take open questions, but as I said, we are going to stop in at 2 minutes to 8. So can I take questions, please?
Councillor Dean, Chair.
Councillor Dean.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll only ask 2 questions to start with, and then give everybody else the opportunity and ask some a bit later. But the first question to the officers is, the people who are on the current top floor, I'm assuming their emergency exit is the stairs. When these additional floors are being built, I am also assuming that those stairs will be connected to further stairs, and the lift will be out of action. What should be the emergency exit requirement for any building, number one? And secondly, how is this going to be built? Where is the materials, where the cranes going to be? Where are they going to be situated if this building goes ahead? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Regards to emergency exits, that would be captured under building control. So that issue would be taken into consideration at the building control stage. Yes, the stairs are proposed to continue up along the existing line, also with the lift. So that would be a building control matter. How would it be built? Well, it is a tight site. There's no off-street parking with the building, so there is limited space for construction. You'll see within the report we've added the conditions requiring a construction logistics plan, but also including a number of TfL's recommended conditions with specific regard to the construction process, but also in regard to the underground station tunnels below. So in terms of actually how it will be constructed, again that will be dealt with via the planning conditions.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to find out if any of the recommendation that TfL has suggested, has it been addressed? And if it has been addressed, where is it stated in the planning application?
Chair, with the TfL's comments, they haven't raised objection to the application, but they have suggested conditions and informatives. So we've looked at those and we've applied those to the agenda this evening. So that the reason it's sent in two letters, obviously they're reconsulted on the amended plans. But you'll see there in detail, Chair, we put their response in full, that they have recommended conditions in order to mitigate the development. So they haven't objected to the application, and all the details are to be secured via those conditions that we put in the agenda.
Thank you. And we've got 3 minutes, but I would like to draw members' attention to page 18, where the planning considerations are, and these are the issues that we should be addressing when we question and comment when we come back I think I'm going to close the meeting for the clapping issue now, and then we'll resume at 8:05. Thank you. Thank you. Looks like we are all back. So we can continue. So I did draw your attention to page 18 with the planning considerations. So further questions, please. Councillor Lunning.
I have a question on external amenity space. Looking at the application granted in 2015 for the original development, it states within the report, and I quote, "While ground level rear terraces would suffer from considerable overshadowing, the roof terraces have the potential to benefit from good levels of sunlight, and on balance, the quality of amenity space may be considered satisfactory," which seems to suggest that the original scheme on external amenity relied to a certain extent on the roof terrace. So can we expect that the roof terrace will be retained in this application? Thank you.
Thank you. If I share my screen, actually, apologies. No, what it refers to in the 2015 report is the three terrace houses as part of the scheme, original permission, three-bed terrace houses. They had roof terraces each. So there's no, so each flat itself had a balcony, whereas those three-bed houses had roof terraces themselves.
Councillor Southgate.
Thank you. Can I ask about safety in the event of fire? What are there any specific provisions for evacuation in the event of fire? I couldn't find it in the report.
As mentioned earlier, it would be a building control matter. Neil, I don't know if you want to jump in here on fire safety issue.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's quite clear that would be a building control issue. It would be for the management of the building itself in those circumstances. So it's something that we couldn't cover specifically by a planning condition. It would certainly be a building control matter.
Any further questions, please? Councillor Teeth.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask the officer, in the original development of 15 units, what percentage were affordable?
There were no affordable housing was provided in the original application. That was it was subject to a viability review, so there wasn't any affordable housing within the 15 units.
So my next question is that of these 5 additional units, how many are affordable?
None. So with the application, so under current policy, you can't ask for affordable housing contributions on schemes of below 10 units. So with this application, we can't ask for affordable housing contributions, nor was there affordable housing contributions asked on the 2018 permission for the 3 units at top floor level. Sorry, the single story extension to provide 3 units. So we can't unfortunately seek affordable housing contributions with this application.
Councillor Dean.
Housing mix. It's clear in this document that the council seeks to build a broad range of properties as having at least about a third of 3-bedroom properties. Did council officers talk to the applicant about building 3-bedroom properties in this scheme?
In terms of myself, no, I haven't. Unfortunately, I can't vouch for the case officer during the assessment of the proposal. But I mean, the existing building has mixture of 2 and 1-bedroom units. And although the policy requires a variety of mix of units, we feel that we couldn't resist the application on that basis. And so no, we haven't, as far as I'm aware, I haven't spoken to the applicant regarding 3-bed unit provision.
Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask you a question on from page 19, 7.3.4, which says the policy point 3.3 of the London plan stated that the development plans policy should seek to identify new sources of land. Just what I want to ask, does this new bill come within the London policy, because it's an extension on top of another building? So does it comes within the planning, the policy?
So that policy is about identifying new sources of land for residential development. So whilst the application is not building on new land per se, it is intensifying and seeking a higher density for that existing residential site. So so that policy is relevant, but it's one of many policies, obviously, that are relevant with the application.
Any further questions? I'd like to move on to comments then, please. Councillor Dean.
I think that officers have made it clear that a number of the current issues are down to building control. But I can't see how this extension can be built. In particular, we're talking about widening pathways around major transport zones, which this is. And I've just looked on Google Maps. I cannot see a single centimetre that this can be built on private land. All of this is going to be on the public way, which is in need of being given over to cycling and very much in particular pedestrians. Whatever we say about building control, I can't understand how it's acceptable that the people who are on the current top floor won't have issues with emergency exits, that the stairs will have to be extended, and there's no doubt those stairs will not be able to be used. If the lift isn't working on the days that happens, then they are stuck in and out. And when the lift is being extended, for those people who have ever been involved with lifts extension, it is a horrendously difficult job to do. And I can't really believe that the lift will not go above the new 2 stories because it does need further height. So, you know, if this had come to us with they have to walk the last 2 floors, you could understand that. But I do not see how these things are possible. Officers could have objective on bulk and massing. They could have also objective on design. I do recall when this came to committee, many councillors were disappointed with the design and felt that it would not contribute, and if it was done badly, then it would look terrible. I think objectors have said tonight that it has been done badly and it does look terrible. So one last thing I would say is I've never seen a letter from London Underground or Transport for London of more than 1 paragraph. I've never seen 2 letters from Transport for London or London Underground Limited. And regardless of mitigation, I cannot believe that over 2 pages of requests means that this is a good idea. I think this is a bad idea. And I think that depending on what other councillors think, that we should at least be rejecting this on bulk and massing. I also think it should be rejected because we cannot give a decent livelihood to the people living on the top floor at the moment. And I have grave worries in terms of the public space beneath this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, please? Councillor Southgate. I can't hear Councillor. Can count? He's not unmuted. Councillor Southgate is not unmuted. Thank you.
Am I audible now?
You are now. I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I do remember when this went up. It was disappointing. The cladding, tacky being put on for marketing purposes. You know, William Morris would be spinning in his grave in terms of the interrelationship of form and function. And I hadn't appreciated it before, and I must walk past it a couple of times a week, just how poorly the panels are fitted. There are huge gaps. I'll tell you, if your fitted kitchen, you'd have them back the next day. This has gone on for 2 years. Specifically, walking along Milner Road, and I am coming to a particular point here about the height. You have a very abrupt transition between modest Edwardian two-storey houses and this. It's not muted, and it will be even more confrontational. So I do feel that in terms of bulk and massing, specifically looking at the policies on alteration and extensions to existing buildings, it does require materials to be appropriate, so such that they are not unduly dominant and respecting the prevailing positive characteristics of the area. But I just feel that this already poor building will abuse that requirement even more. So I would oppose on grounds of height. I do have one other particular concern, but happy to hear from other members of the committee first, Chair.
Okay. Other comments, please. Councillor Ward.
Thank you. I'm glad we've now got on to what is the actual planning considerations which we could use if we decide on this application. I mean, obviously there are issues with the current building, and there are issues about the bins there were until the supplementary agenda tonight. I mean, but they're not planning considerations that we can use. And I thank Councillor Dean and Southgate for coming on to an actual proposal, because we can't turn this down and reject this because we may not like what the developers have done with the existing developments. The office has been very clear. We can't turn it down because of that. If you want a reason to turn it down, yes, height and bulk and massing have been raised and proposed as reasons for turning this down. Now, considering where it is, considering the building across the road, which is already higher than this proposed building, considering the planning permission we've given for buildings across the other side of the road on the new High Path estate, which will be even bigger again than this. Much as I have sympathy with many of the arguments, I do not think we have a winnable as appeal case on turning this down on bulk and massing, considering the area it's in and the buildings surrounding it. I mean, argue it. I'd like to hear other councillors argue the case on that, and maybe ask for officers' opinions. But from looking at the surroundings, I don't see how, if we do turn it down on bulk and massing, and we can't turn it down on any other issues, we have to remember that. These seem to be the only ones that have been put forward, the only issues we could turn it down on. I don't believe we'd run an appeal if we turned it down on that. And I think we'd be, much as we might like to support the residents in the block at the moment, we'd be just making a rod for our own back in the future and possibly losing an appeal, and possibly having costs against us again. I know I keep warning against that. Just to sum up, I always say there are no perfect planning applications. You have to go with the good sometimes, even though they're not perfect. This is obviously far from perfect, and there are other issues that aren't planning considerations that are far from perfect. But I still haven't seen yet a good reason, a planning reason to turn it down. Thank you.
Other comments, please. Councillor Latif.
Thank you, Chair. My comments are really going back on greed by the developer. If you go back at the previous development, 15 units, they came back with the feasibility viability statement saying that we can't afford any affordable housing. They now come back with an extra 5 units, which is going to be pure profit, probably in the region of about 1.5 million profit. This is pure greed, and I think we should reject it. Bulk, mass, and I'm just trying to think, maybe is there anything to do with the livelihoods of the residents during construction? I don't know, but those are my comments on this, that really we should be looking to reject this Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Henry.
Thank you, Chair. I have sat in this committee for the past few years now. I never normally like to turn any planning application down, but having read through all what I've read through, and seeing the building myself, and now for me it's a safety issue. We had gone through a very difficult time with Grenfell, and personally, I don't want to see another Grenfell. In this building, we have 5 stories so far, 1 lift and a staircase. In these buildings, we're not going to have only younger people. We're going to have different set of people. Again, we're going through a period of time of people, homelessness and everything, but there's not one, as our colleagues say, affordable units. On the other hand, I think we're looking at something possible. I don't want to use the word, but maybe a debt trap again. So we will say, I'm happy with what's there now, and to be honest with you, I'm going to object on this application.
Thank you. Councillor Lanning.
Thank you, Chair. Just to, I suppose, follow up on Councillor Southgate and Councillor Latif's comments, I would agree that I think that this is a very tall building. While there are other tall buildings proposed, as Councillor Ward mentioned, this was a tall building when it was developed, and when it was proposed originally. To add an additional 2 stories appears excessive to me. And I do also think, in addition to height and bulk and massing, there is a question of design that Councillor Southgate raised. The quality of existing design is poor, and I think just sort of adding another 2 stories of, again, poor design is not really what we need in this in the borough.
Thank you. Councillor Southgate. Take the next.
Okay. Yes, the other point here, and picking up on Councillor Henry's point about safety, on the 1st of June, that's Monday, the Ministry MHCLG will be publishing statutory guidance that any new build above 11 metres will require sprinklers to be fitted. Now, this is actually, it's 23 metres now, going up to 27. At the very least, the sprinkler requirement must apply to the 2-storey extension, and yet we have nothing in the report that tells us how that's going to be incorporated. And I don't want to be told that, well, that's not the law now, because we would be derelict in our responsibilities. As Councillor Henry said, we all bar a few days, 3 years on from Grenfell, and this is pretty serious. So I would certainly want to, at the very least, actually defer so the developer can explain how sprinklers are to be fitted. But I think we actually have pretty substantive grounds on bulk, massing and height. Can I just, on that, draw the comparison with Spur House across the road to the south, which is at the moment just 10 centimetres shorter than what is proposed here. But that does at least step down with an office block running to the west to the two-story properties in Milner Road, whereas the juxtaposition here is, as I said earlier, it's much more stark with the properties in Milner Road. It will, I walked down there on Tuesday, it will slap you in the face. It does now, and it will do more so. So those objections on height in particular still apply.
Thank you. Councillor Christie.
Thank you, Chair. I have to say as well that I'm often uncomfortable opposing applications that would bring more homes into the borough. and so I do feel a little bit uncomfortable about this. But for me, there are just too many things that I don't like about this application, and that I think would have a particularly negative impact on the sort of immediate neighbourhood and area around the application site. I do agree with, I think it was Councillor Southgate that said that it would not have a positive impact on the immediate neighbourhood. And I also note that the planning policy DMD2 says that applications should ensure the appropriate level of quality of living conditions, presumably also for people that would be affected in the existing building. And so I do think there are a number of reasons that this application could and should be rejected on planning grounds. But on top of that, there are many other reasons why I don't think this is a good development as well.
Thank you. Councillor Ward.
Thank you. I think it's clear from those last few comments since I was last in that we are coming to a consensus even on planning committee that height, particularly height and bulk and massing are, there are other concerns but they're not planning issues, but there would seem to be a consensus that height, bulk and massing are our main problems we can use in order to reject this application. I think we're coming to that consensus. Can I remove that that somebody seconds, and do we go?
Thank you, David. I would like to take Councillor Dean's comments before I request a recommendation. Thank you.
Just to reiterate, I think the General Committee has agreed with height, bulk and massing. If the officers can clarify how we propose that. And I agree with Councillor Henry that even though it's not a planning issue for us where it comes to pieces of paper, I do think we have to think about humanity. We don't want to be looking back in a few years and say, well, we couldn't stop it. We have the opportunity to, and I'm glad people are supportive of that.
Thank you. Councillor Southgate, do you want to move the recommendation, and I'll get a seconder, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The recommendation is that using policy DMD2 that which I have before me, reject on grounds particularly of height, but also bulk and in fact design to reject. And DMD3 is relevant as well in para 9, ensuring that materials are appropriate size, type, etc. In relation to the existing buildings, so that they are not unduly dominant and respect the prevailing positive characteristics of the area.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder, please? Quite a lot of seconders. I'll take Councillor Maykean as the seconder. Thank you. We're going to put that to the vote then. Can I see those in favour of the recommendation Peter Southgate has just put forward? That looks unanimous to me. Yeah. So the recommendation is on the grounds that Councillor Southgate has just outlined is what we're accepting, and the application is turned down. We now move to agenda item 6. The reason why this has been brought to the committee is because I'm just moved my notes. So we had information from somebody who wished to present a speech at the last meeting, but for some reason it didn't happen, and so we felt uncomfortable that that had been omitted. And so we're going to ask Louise to read out that objection. And so when that objection has been read out, we are then in a position to decide whether what's been expressed in that is something that would make us change our mind about the decision we took on the erection of the media pavilion for the All England Club. So I'm going to ask Louise to read that objection, and then afterwards we'll just have a general discussion about whether or not we feel that has changed our position. Okay, Louise, could you kindly read through, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is on behalf of the Chair of the Oakfield Residents Limited. The noise assessment reports in these proposals has assessed the effect of vehicle noise on Burghley House, but it did not take into account that the vehicles will be in a queue, so the noise will be prolonged. And there will be intermittent revving up of lorries, buses and motorbikes as they are released. And the noise from air conditioners and generators of the broadcast trucks only yards from our flats was not considered. Air conditioner noise is very intrusive. All this noise pollution will interfere with the right of our residents to the quiet enjoyment of their homes. Even more seriously, there will be more nitrous oxide. This is produced primarily by diesel engines and is known to be a major cause of death. Accordingly, the National Planning Policy Framework, amended June 2019, requires that developments must take into account effects of pollution on health. The committee might be aware that the vast majority of coronavirus deaths have occurred in the regions where there is most nitrous oxide, citation attached. High nitric oxide levels means people are more likely to die from coronavirus. No doubt nitric oxide will be similarly lethal in future influenza and coronavirus epidemics. Yet the proposal will subject our residents to a queue of mostly diesel buses, lorries and cars. This queue will be within 5 yards of Burghley House, in which many already vulnerable people live. It beggars belief that the AELTC can imagine such a proposal might be acceptable so close to where people live. The physical and emotional harm the new gate would cause our residents could be avoided by making Gate 1 the accreditation gate. This is not close to anybody's home. Various AELTC documents, including the current application, refer to an expectation that Gate 1 will become the primary accreditation and entry point, and that proposals are in preparation that will enable accreditation at Gate 1. The present proposal should be rejected on the grounds that it will cause serious physical and emotional harm to our residents. It should be replaced by a scheme whereby Gate 1 becomes the sole accreditation and entry and exit point. The noise and nitric oxide pollution caused by the broadcast units could be avoided if these are relocated to somewhere where people do not live, such as the adjacent golf club with communication Wi-Fi. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Tim, can I get you to comment, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So with regards to the new access road for Gate 20, yes, it is moving closer towards Burghley House flats. In terms of the use of the access is not to change apart from the truck parking or the broadcast lorries, which come in before the tournament begins and leave afterwards. The club have actually confirmed via email to me that those particular lorries they plug into the All England Club's electricity supply rather than have electricity generators. In terms of noise issues, as I said at the meeting last 2 weeks ago, the use of the access road is intermittent. It's not a main busy road. The club are implementing at the moment the scheme opposite on Somerset Road, which will provide 300 or so parking spaces. So whilst this access at the moment has been used a bit more, it is outlined that the use of it would actually drop. Further, we've granted permission fairly recently for a 5-year consent for a new accreditation facility at Gate 1D. So that's just north of Gate 1, and that will also include 12 parking spaces. So that's designed to ease pressure on Church Road and Somerset Road. So that's designed to be used as pedestrian access only during the championships, but outside it will be accreditation area contractors and main visitors coming to the site, as it's near the main entrance gate 1. So all in all, Chair, the proposal is not considered to have significant impacts on residential amenity with those issues raised. And so I have no further comments on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Given that so you've heard the objectors' comments and you've heard the response to that, can I just check with people whether they feel satisfied that those objections have been addressed? Councillor Southgate. Can't hear you yet, sorry.
Okay, just one thought. Is it possible to have conditions that prevent lorries sitting with their engines idling? I mean, there is nothing I know that we find more infuriating than diesel engines belching out NOT when it's not necessary. Can the plantsman who controls vehicle movements ask drivers to switch their engines off if they're not actually moving? Would that be a reasonable thing to ask?
We did think about this for the scheme that came 2 weeks ago, and it's a difficult one because it's difficult to enforce. So if as soon as a lorry stops dead and his engine's technically on, he's straight away breached the planning condition. So it's a difficult one. I think it's one really for on-site management. So if you like, you could add an informative about that on the decision notice. Decision notice obviously hasn't been issued yet, so that is something we could add as an informative rather than an actual condition, given the nature and the use of this particular site.
Okay, are you happy with that, Councillor Southgate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other concerns? No. Okay, then we are reviewing the recommendation from the previous meeting that we had, which we agreed, and we're now adding this comment to the report. So can I find those in favour of the recommendation, please? Please show. Thank you. So that is unanimous. Oh, sorry, Councillor Latif is not allowed to vote on that, so he will be not voting. But apart from that, yes. Thank you very much. We now move on to noting the planning enforcement report, which is on the agenda. Again, as I've said before, if you have any issues around enforcement, please can you take those up with officers outside of this meeting. So with that, I would say I'm going to close the meeting and thank you for your time and see you at our next planning meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.